Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Various, and today I wanted to make a video that might help some of you scrubs that don't know much about fighting games but really want to get into the genre out a little bit. So I'm going to be going over some tips and some tricks and whatnot, get you guys hopefully tournament ready. This is Fighting Games 101. Alright, so one thing I want to go ahead and get out the way real quick is numpad notation. Now, numpad notation is pretty easy to remember, but some of you smooth brain people don't seem to understand the concept. So I'm going to go ahead and break it down to the real smooth, Alright, so I want you to go ahead and take a look at that, calculator app or something on your phone, or if you got a real one, that's cool too. Basically, all we want to do is just look at the way the numbers are set up, 1 through 9. And that's basically going to determine whatever number I say is the direction you're going to move in. So if I say, let's see, 2p, then that would be down punch, Or if I say 6p, that would be forward punch. Real easy to remember, right? Alright, so that's the first half of numpad notation. The second half of numpad notation is a little more nuanced, and it really just depends on whatever game you're playing at the moment. Because some fighting games like to have the habit of taking the abbreviation from one fighting game and just adding it to their game. So what I mean by that is take Guilty Gear Strive. It has S as a button, which is linked to triangle. But Dragon Ball FighterZ has S as a button as well, but it's linked to X. So it really just depends on whatever you're playing at the moment, and you just have to look out for it depending on what game you're playing. Now, I bet you're wondering, Various, why would I need something like that? What would I use that for? Why can't you just tell me my directional inputs based on my controller? Well, let me ask you something. What controller are you playing on? Are you on Xbox, PlayStation? Do you use Hitbox or Arcade Stick? Or do you use D-pad? See, that's the problem. You really don't know depending on who you're talking to. And when people like me make these videos, we can't always guarantee that the console that we play on is going to be the controller that you're using. Because so many different kinds of controllers are coming out and they're all tournament legal. So it just depends on making it easy for us to kind of condense it down into one thing and allow everybody to understand everybody at the same time. So if I say down X on PlayStation, the Xbox guy won't know what I'm talking about. But if I say 2S on PlayStation, the Xbox guy will still know what I'm talking about because it's all the same thing on the same game. See, pretty simple, right? Now that we got that knocked out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to something else. Alright, so the next thing I want to go ahead and talk about is something called neutral. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard of this before, but just like numpad notation, I'm going to go ahead and run over it real quick. So, basically, what I want you to think of when you think neutral is your characters just popped up on the screen. Now, you got your intros out of the way. Now, it says round start. Get ready, go. Now, as soon as you start that match, now you're in neutral. Now you're trying to figure out, what am I going to do? Or how am I going to touch my opponent without my opponent touching me? Because as you know, the main point of a fighting game is to knock your opponent's health down to 0. And with that in mind, some people just have to have that godlike neutral in order to be able to play the game. Now, neutral usually depends on the character that you're playing, because not every character is built equally, sadly. So some characters have better round start buttons than others, and some characters have better mobility than others. So it really just depends on who you're playing and how you're playing them to determine what you're going to do on round start. There really isn't any right or wrong way to play round start besides, I guess, not doing anything at all, because that means you're really just not trying to play the game. And the cool thing about neutral is it comes in all shapes and sizes. So, from round start to round end, anytime that you're not engaging your opponent directly, guess what, buddy? You're playing neutral. That means from the little key blast skirmish, full screen, and fighters, to the slow, methodical steps, or who we're getting those little quick-paced movements that you get in Street Fighter, to even the weirdness that is Guilty Gear Xrd or Guilty Gear Strive's neutral. It's something that we all have to deal with, and regardless, unless you're certain characters who have certain tools that let them finesse their way through neutral, you still gotta think how you're gonna get in on your opponent without letting them get in on you. Now, one thing you gotta understand is while there is no right or wrong way to play neutral, there are certainly things that you can do in a match that will definitely help or hinder you, depending on who you're playing, what you're playing, and who you're playing against. For instance, if I know I'm a rushdown character with really fast but stubby buttons, why would I try and leave myself outside of a range where my opponent may or may not have a better poke in neutral? But the thing is, it's really all nuance, and it really just depends on who you are as a player, and it's up to you to decide your playstyle. But I'm really just here to give you tips and tricks, not to say that this is 100% the way you should play a character. Because while I've seen a lot of top tier players, I've seen a lot of really good players play a character in such an unorthodox way that it confuses their opponents. So by all means, if you have a way that works good for you, go ahead and take care of it. Now, another thing I want to quickly broach upon is the fact that you also might want to decide who you're playing. Because I found out recently that a lot of the times the character that you start off with in a game will most likely not be the character that you continue to play with for the rest of your career in that game. For instance, when I was first getting into Guilty Gear Strive, I spent a lot of time playing Chip. Got really good with Chip, but then over time, I slowly started getting away from him. Now my main's biking like it was an XR. So it really just depends on who you are as a player, and again, it's up to you to decide who you're playing. But there are a couple of things that may or may not hint to the way you would want to play. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I could spend like an hour going over stuff like that to help you pick a character. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this video a little short, not because I want to, but because I don't have enough footage to go ahead and get some of this stuff taken care of. I want to get a video out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here, and I'm gonna come out with a couple more videos explaining certain specific things. And leave a comment if you want to see anything in particular, like any character guides or game guides, 101s for specific things. Because while this was a kind of a broad subject thing, I'd like to go a little bit more narrow on certain things. I'll probably come out with something sooner or later, so be on the lookout for that. Alright, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and catch you guys later. Peace.
仇討ち是非なし阿鼻二天のホース千里成敗お上の松何とぞよしなに縁